Just walked in there.
Yeah, I just got a text message, no sound.
Somebody's on it. Thank you.
You
It's
say,
should
hey.
be working now.
You say if you want to check it now, we should be good to go. Awesome. Paul, did you do it now? Thank you.
Yeah, it said it was connected.
Great morning.
Yep, you too.
All right, let me turn this thing off. I don't want to listen to that shit. Hopefully there's nobody there. Really good. All right, go ahead, Gail, if you want.
I mean, there's really nothing, I just asked for the raises like everyone else, you know. Mine is a little different from everyone's because I do get a little extra for the meetings that I attend, so. And, I mean, I've got two girls in my office that, you know, I'd say I've probably got over 40 years of experience between the two of them, so. And then right now, I'm gonna have to get a new payroll clerk.
Right.
But the payroll clerk, they're gonna be, I'm not having them, either everybody's gonna be salary or everybody's gonna be hourly. There's no reason for that to be that much difference in that position. I mean, I know that was.
Are the ladies in your office cross-trained?
The two on the one side cannot do what the payroll clerk and I do now. I mean, which I don't know that I would want everybody in there to know and how to do the payroll. That just adds for mistakes if somebody's not familiar with it. I can do it and the payroll clerk can do it right now. And she and I can do their side somewhat if they're not here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Gail. Because I don't know all these offices here,
You're fine.
but shouldn't the deputy, first deputy be able to really step in and do everything? Or
You know,
to be able, you know what I'm saying?
I have a first deputy and I also have a payroll clerk.
Exactly.
So to me,
You know what I'm saying? It just, I'm trying to.
I know, and
Lots
I'm
of
not
things.
saying that the first deputy or the second deputy could not come over and help out and get the person what they need,
Mhm.
how they, whatever it may be. But as far as payroll,
Paper was it?
I don't think everybody,
Mhm.
I need to have that one person that is kind of the expert, just like, that I have other people that could do it. They can understand what needs to be done, they can like that. But it's just a little different with the first deputy, isn't the payroll clerk. You know what I mean? It's.
Payroll was, I've never done payroll, okay, so I don't know if you've been involved in it. I wish we'd already had a new payroll.
I don't know payroll from the sixties.
Right, I mean, we're
Yeah,
still,
I mean,
I mean,
for the most part, everybody is the same every week, but you still gotta put it in, you have to, then you have those,
there's a lot of manual
there's
entry,
a
right?
lot of overtime for certain offices, but I mean,
Does-
it,
Just curious, does everybody still track their own PTO? Or
I track, everybody does, but I track my girls in my office.
your office, right?
I believe everybody, can't speak for all the office holders, but I believe they do.
So I'm gonna make the same comment that I made to Stacy. A year ago, we were working 30 hours, now we're supposed to be working 40. If you take your office,
Mhm.
4 people at 30 hours equals 120 hours a week. 3 people at 40 hours equals 120 hours a week. So man hour, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
So logically thinking, if your office was cross-trained, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go to three people as opposed to 4 because the man hours equal the same.
But no, there's no way we could go to 3 people in that office. What they do on that side, as far as the land, and Stacy spoke about everybody splitting the parcels, and then you gotta record it correctly. Do they have a homestead? Do they have this? Do they have that? If they have a VA deduction, whatever it may be, if you went to one person on that side, some of that carryover would come over to the payroll and auditor. And I mean, there's just no way that they could take on, or I couldn't take on anymore, and I wouldn't want the payroll deputy. So 2 people on that side, it needs to be.
Well, logically speaking, if 4 people get it done in 30 hours, which is 120 hours, then 3 people in 40 hours is still 120 hours, so it should be able to get done, right?
No, I don't. I mean, because things have changed, what they're handling, everything coming in electronically now is different. We still have the sewage plant that we're printing bills, taking payments for that, putting liens on for that at the
Sewage, let me jump. I'd like to-
Moorfield bidding, yes, sorry.
So all the money's come down through here for that.
Yes. Mhm. We put the liens on the property if that comes to that. We release liens if that comes to that. So I understand like the numbers look like you should, but in the realistic, the workload, no. In my office, everyone comes to my office, no matter what the problem, whether they need to order a part, send an email to you guys or the council or whomever, or just a general complaint. They come to my office for everything, and that's okay, because, the auditor's office is like the hub.
Well, I
But-
was getting ready to go there as far as being, oh, thanks.
Well, I mean, historically, it was payroll, HR,
Yeah.
And some of that.
well as the finance and accounting, if you will.
And if the insurance is still, for the most part, handled in my office. We have to, if it's a new employee, you have to make sure that correct benefits are coming out. Make sure that they're caught up. If someone has quit, you need to make sure that they're paid up before they get their insurance. FMLA, all that stuff is still handled through my office.
So do we have like, not to try to solve problems, but do we have like a exit interview check sheet where, I don't know what all we do, we canceled the insurance, we did this, we did that, everything that has to be done, that way, and who's responsible for it, because I know we've had a number of occasions where either we continue to pay someone, or they continue to be on our insurance.
What you're talking about when someone continues to be on the insurance, that is not a mistake in my office. That has been canceled by whomever has quit, that gets canceled. The effective day that they quit. If it's like today, they'll have insurance through the end of August, but Medfin should know not to pay us, and they've always refunded us if they did charge. I know that was an issue last year when I first came in office, but I mean, I don't know how many times you can hit cancel and call them and email them and tell them before you. I mean, I know that this is a large amount, but I also. No,
Yeah,
too big, you can always come down, you can't go back up so, I
Right.
mean,
Am I getting that right? Is that like 22%?
what's that?
I calculated this on 36 hours, not 40.
I'm sorry.
I was trying to call that a
36, not
percentage.
40.
That's what they work.
22%.
23. I mean, but what she did, I took everybody's current salary divided by 2,080 hours, which is a 40-hour work week, which is gonna show them at a lower current hourly rate than what they're gonna show, because they're using 36 hours.
I mean, is the intent to make everyone hourly for 25? Or?
I don't know what, we've not had that discussion. I know a lot of you all put
Hourly.
hourly.
I mean, and
I
know it was-
You know,
You
I
think
should-
what?
I think it should be her.
yeah,
You know.
I do as
that's-
well,
that's-
but
That's my. opinion.
wasn't there something brought up about, that whole non-exempt exempt and the changing in the wages?
There,
Wasn't there something that it's already went into effect or it's going to go into effect?
there was one change that went into effect July I'm gonna say first,
Yeah.
but then there's another change that goes into effect January the 1st. and it increases it significantly. Meaning that, if you make less than a certain amount, then you cannot be considered an exempt employee. And I think it goes to like 50, don't quote me, but 50-some thousand, 55 or 56 effective, January the 1st, I believe it is, of 25. So, but these people weren't treated as exempt anyway, were they?
No,
They got paid overtime, right, for anything over
Oh,
40.
Oh, it's supposed to be over.
Over
Over 40, right.
right.
That's the key, 40 is the real point for overtime.
And that's
It's supposed to-
understood, that if they were working 36, they didn't get paid until,
Yeah, I mean, if they work,
That's
so
standard.
again, I'm not trying to,
Standard labor
I
law.
know,
I'm trying to figure all that out, that, a lot of it just doesn't,
That's standard labor laws.
that doesn't compute, I mean, there's just. I mean, if.
I don't care if I get a raise at all, but I feel like my girls are entitled to one. Or my employees. I should-
I'm gonna go on record, I think all employees, I mean, considering the economic situation, I think they all should get some kind of raise,
Right.
okay? But you probably even understand more also the current economic conditions, what's going on. I
Right.
think you got a good grasp on what's happening, where I think a lot of others have no idea, honestly, so.
I think, and I think it's important to note, so right now, we're projected, and I know casino revenue is different than 1,000, but casino revenue subsidizes a lot of our county budget. So, for example, it subsidizes 2.67 million of our health insurance.
Health insurance, yeah, it's basically, right now, 40%.
Current projection that John Bond sent out earlier this week was 6.7 million for casino revenue. But that comes with a big unknown. Belterra was down 20-some% in July, which July is typically their strongest month. Yeah, do we have a big fat healthy savings right now? Absolutely. But I think if you look at Belterra overall, their biggest revenue, for the most part right now is from online gaming, which we get none of. And I'm very much concerned that Kentucky's gonna go to online gaming eventually. There's no question about it. And when that happens, I think there's a great risk or a serious risk that, there may not be any money there. So, I think we've got to look out, I think we've got to be aware of our environment, or conscious of our environment and what's going on. But I also think we need to try and give people increases as well. So, but 23% increases, or some of them has even been submitted higher than that. It's
Well-
probably not very realistic.
I think I just did it as.
So, just so I'm clear, more than, regardless of what we do, your main concern is that there's not this huge disparity in the three positions within your
Right.
office that report to you.
I just, I have a lot of knowledge in my office right now, and it's, I'm currently looking for a new payroll clerk, and it's hard right now to find someone that's a huge responsibility for someone to have. But the last thing I want is to downsize on the other side, and it's just, I don't know. I don't think that would be a good idea. I mean, I'm not saying, hey,
I
this
know.
is what I want. I know that it was a shot in the dark, but
You're making your case now,
if
Well, that's, I mean,
anything,
that's the purpose of us having these reviews, is so that we can understand, one, what the justification was, understand what really you're trying to accomplish related to your staff or your people, but then ultimately do what, we think is right for the county based on, again, the environment that we're currently in. So it's not a, you're wrong, I'm right, or, put anybody on the spot
I know.
intent. It's purely to
It all comes
understand.
down to,
Right now,
I
just,
mean, I'm telling you what I do in my office, but, you guys don't know everything that goes on in there. You have an idea, but
That's
the
another
workload-
reason for us doing this, because
Right.
again, we
I
don't
mean,
know what people, everybody.
they have went to some e-filing, e-record, whatever you want to call it, but the workload's still there. People coming in with issues because there has been a split and something may not have been done correctly. And then now all of a sudden the state has added the TODs onto us. That was effective July 1st. That's something new for everyone that we hadn't done before.
What is a TOD?
Transfer on death. So, I mean, and then like Carolyn, she found the ordinance. I have to redo the ordinance and bring it to you guys because what is on the website isn't currently what we are charging. It needs to be changed. It says $5. We've been charging 10. It's just, there's always something that's changing and that's the
ongoing
state,
improvement.
yeah. Sometimes an improvement.
Supposed to be all time, yeah, continuous improvement.
Sometimes.
Just one little thing on payroll clerk position, that is an hourly.
Right now it is
right?
hourly,
It is an
but
hourly position,
if-
okay. I just want
It's
that
gonna be
straight
taken down. Whatever the raise is, it's going to be based on the 38,666, not on the 44.
What was the question?
Right now, it is an hourly position, the payroll clerk. Yeah, compared to, I think,
The others are salary.
Everyone else's salary.
salary
That's
knowledge.
the only,
And then, well, you guys, I think, as far as elected leader, your salary exempt, or should be.
Their salaries and
So,
yeah, nobody gets paid.
one day, or you work
It don't matter.
365 days, there's your salary.
I don't think I have any more questions. Randy, Jerry.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie again, there's some tough
I know.
races right there, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's just-
Hey,
it's-
I did it by what they're
it's
worth.
just- I'm just,
And
yeah. It's just that I'm not trying to go,
like I
not
said,
consider this.
I don't even need a raise if it means them getting a raise, so.
I mean, just like with Stacy yesterday, those were tough requests, so that's just where I'm at on that, so. But anywho, hopefully we, can work things out.
Anything else for us?
No, I don't think so.
Thank
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Marshall, good morning.
How are we?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So you kind of got a preview of what we're trying to accomplish. Obviously, everybody, I think historically, the process has been, everybody fills out a budget, gives it to council, council gives a flat raise across the board. Obviously, Indiana code states that everybody fills out a Form 144, submits it to the commissioners, and the commissioners do a review. Now, it's not specific about what that review is, but for me and for us, we didn't want to just look at a piece of paper that everybody turned in, especially since a lot of the requests were very high, if you will. So I looked at it as an opportunity to do a couple different things. One, understand the responsibilities and what actually people do in every office, because I don't know. And then number two, try to understand that justification for those increases and hopefully, propose something that's not just a standard across the board, because I think every office's circumstances or situation is different. Hopefully where there's people that's got good justification for a higher increase, it makes sense to give a higher increase. So, I never was in favor of the one flat rate across the board, whether that's right or wrong, I'm not here to say, but, so anyway, that's the purpose of us having the reviews and asking everybody to, if they didn't mind, to sit down with us so that we do have a better understanding and we can make hopefully a more calculated and representative recommendation to council.
Well, thank you for that. I definitely respect that. I know Randy and Gail would have remembered the budget process from last year. And one of the lessons I learned was essentially the oral presentation, a lot of content, but it was something that took probably by far the longest. And it was also, no matter how good of notes we did, no matter how much of that we did, we were all going to miss something. Where I'm going to miss something said, miss something heard. So one of the things I wanted to do was give you information, each of you information, um, basically justifying all that request from a comprehensive budget, including the same position I would make to council, which under Title 3933 would be the funding statute that would apply to my office. So by doing that, I have wanted to provide you all this information so you can literally be on the same page. One of the things I've done is not only make a comprehensive salary request, but I have also then analyzed overall budgetary impact and maybe even identified a funding source or multiple funding sources that could help alleviate some of those things, because I am very sensitive to that. So what I'd like to do is I would like to give you all binders. They're all the same. And I'm going to have one. Gail, I have 3 for the commissioners here, and then I will hand you mine after that. So here you go, gentlemen.
You're just trying to overwhelm us with documents.
No.
Yeah. 'Cause I mean, I thought I always know the salaries. I mean,
Well, but my point is, if you look only at the salaries, and if you look only at a cabin view, what's going to happen is you're not going to have enough data to actually see how that applies all the way across the board. So when we take a look at that, overall, we are addressing a more holistic problem of retention. And I'll just kind of summarize a summary just to give you an idea. What that binder contains is this. First of all, it is my overall executive summary budget memorandum. I sent a letter to council, hopefully to hear what would essentially they would request. The presentation I did last year, instead of a PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to want to give you that. Then, if you look, those things cite the primary sources, including the research there. The research there, I think, contains pretty much everything except for 2 different books. And then that way, not only that, you can look back at those things and you can actually compare to understand that. So kind of going through it, just to basically give you a general overview. I think the most important thing that I have seen in my office in the time that I have done this is that retention of administrative staff is the #1 priority. There has been a detailed salary analysis created by the Association of Indiana Prosecutors regarding this. This happened in 2023. They've actually since updated that in 2024. However, I am going to peg all of our numbers on last year because we fall farther and farther behind every year. That salary market research shows that we're between 13 and I believe 23%. It's in the summary, below even the lowest levels of similar positions. And that was derived on 80 of the 92 counties in Indiana, including every one that we are surrounded by, but also I think everyone except for one that we are that are similar size or better. Like, so Crawford County, which is effectively our size, and every county except I believe Union County, and it includes Ohio County as well, which is not only a bordering county, but also one that is considerably smaller. So it gives you a holistic overview of what the market does. That all of it. And actually, and so let me show you. So page 1 cites this, and then it's called the critical need for staffing workload measures, baseline salary determinations, job descriptions, prosecutor analysis report. That was created by Wagner, Irwin, and Scheel. That's the same consulting firm that's been used in 80 of the 92 counties. And then I want to show you what that looks like here to help you find it later. If you'll turn to, you'll find this page here. This doesn't have page numbers because they're all different documents, okay? So I'm showing you that it's after the salary ordinance. Yep, there you go. So you'll go into that salary. What that does is that analyzes data for essentially attorney staff ratios in criminal state courts. They also then talk about Wagner, Irwin, and Scheel's background, their methodology, their pay schedules. They list every county that they studied. They cite the sources that they use. And then that actually goes to this page, which is association recommended compensation levels for non-attorney staff, which on May 11th, 2023 shows a salary range that was created based on that research. Also, just to give you an idea, and I explained this in our memorandum, obviously we are a small administrative staff. There are 2 people in the criminal division. There's only 1 person in the child support division. So while larger offices would have more positions with more specialized roles, we obviously have to do things with more hybridized job duties. We are now moving to more of a cross-training formulation as our office gets better and more advanced. But to give you an idea, the 3 most germane job descriptions are paralegal, victim advocate, and office manager. And so they have actually provided sample job descriptions of each of those. In fact, they've provided sample job descriptions of basically most things that you would see in larger, more staffed offices. So to get an idea of generalized job duties, understanding that because we have 2 staff members, we have essentially 3 jobs, and they do not include a receptionist in this particular salary study, knowing that also our people are also answering the phones and doing those sorts of administrative things, where larger offices are going to essentially, including the one I came from, which is not substantially larger, had effectively a receptionist at the front door that handled calls and funneled those things out. So that way it gives you the opportunity to see job duties. We go through some of those job duties just to give you an idea of what those roles can look like. I also found this just happened. There was an August 5th, 2024 posting statewide for a child. So after you get out of the salary study, they go all the way there. So you'll find the end of this page here. Yep. And then you'll turn across there. What you'll see there actually is the draft salaries for 2024, just to show you that those are increasing. But I want to be very clear. We're pegging it on the old data, right? This was something we were basing last year. Now we're seeing that increase. I'm not asking for anything for 2024. I'm just showing you that basically what that market is doing. But then the Marshall County Child Support Supervisor posting, just to give you an idea of what those job duties would look like, what that pay would be, what that work week, hourly work week would look like, and the benefits, including the Public Employee Retirement Fund, which is PERF. So the ideas of qualifications and those sorts of things, you can get a flavor and an understanding of the day-to-day operations, or at least the day-to-day responsibilities in our office. Coming here, I also show you, just as a cited source, I took Indiana counties by population. I wanted to use that in June 20th, 2024. So those numbers are in fact as close to real time as possible to give you an idea of the size of counties. Statewide financial report to give you an idea of just statewide tax revenue, which would govern actually my salary and my chief deputy's salaries. Part of my proposal here is that there is a small supplement that the county gives that I'm actually requesting to be reallocated to my staff. So I'm asking to cut my pay personally on my personal salary to a $0 expenditure for county funds, distribute those things to the staff. The other thing I would note is in this document, we see a contractual obligation, which is basically between the county prosecutor's office through their child support division. We see how that goes through basically federal block grants, which is federal money given through the state through Title 4D, Social Security Act. That is a contract that actually reimburses my child support division any budgeted dollars at 66%. So the idea meaning that we can fund, we will be reimbursed 2/3 of any expenditure, which allows us to justify an increase actually for a minimal expense given that. So including a pay cut, including the reimbursement, which is contractually obligated, we are in a situation where we can actually fund approximately 56% of this request through our own allocated dollars that are already in the budget. And then also looking at that, I have found, based on a county meeting about potential interest from county investments that have been earned in the 2023 calendar year alone to the tune of, I believe, $433,000. So looking at that interest right there could obviously fund what would be a net $6,700 increase across 3 full-time employees, meaning that once you factor in pay cut, once you factor in reimbursement, you're under 45% approximately about the total requested net amount. That net amount could then be leveraged through even a small piece of
So,
investments.
And I agree with that, but I would say, if you go back not so many years, our county was, not only was it not flush with cash, we were in
Sure.
debt. It's only because of, a change in leadership and doing, what's right for the taxpayers that we're here. We're in that situation. So obviously, we don't disagree with what you're saying at
Right.
all, but we don't wanna put ourselves back in that situation and put that load back on the taxpayer again, because, again, we've seen in the 6 years I've been a commissioner, every year casino revenue's gone down.
Sure.
I have no reason to believe that trend, won't continue.
Sure.
And you know as well as I do that, it's only gonna go down so much and then it's gonna be gone like any other business. Now, does that mean I have a crystal ball that I can look into and see when that is or if it's really gonna happen? No. But that is something that I think we all need to be conscious of, but I agree 100% with your numbers, but I just wanted to state the fact that if it wasn't for things that been done in the recent past, then that, obviously that 400 and some $1,000 worth of interest monies wouldn't be there.
Mhm. And so I guess, and I think it's a good point. And one of the things here is that the prosecutor's office, to my knowledge, does not receive any casino funds. I would not make any request from casino funds. That would allow you guys to have full discretionary funding for those sorts of things. And we would be there from the general fund because I believe that the statute obligates the payment from the general fund. Now,
So you're-
understanding dollars
In a
enters
roundabout
out.
way, your office does receive casino funds because your employees get health benefits. Those health benefits are paid from casino revenue.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, sure. So if the county chooses to do that, those things are, basically outside of my control and expertise, but I am trying to be mindful of that impact. That's why I've analyzed the total budgetary impact to this to the general fund at, I believe, 0.15.
0.148 or something like that.
0.148%. So basically the idea, just to scale it down, sometimes the big numbers are just hard to visualize in your head. If the general fund cost or ran county operations at $100, which would be 1,000 pennies, we would be asking for 15 pennies. And because of the interest allowed, I believe that even if we took that interest and then maybe even potentially invested that interest, the calendar year interest from 2023 alone, you might be in a situation where, based on the rates that exist currently, or even less favorable rates, would actually fund this entirely once you factor in my pay cut and reimbursement.
You're right, 0.149.
149, sure. And you're better at math than I'm just, yeah. So thinking about those sorts of things, I believe that's, the substance of this. And so the why. Why are we doing that? Why would we want to do that at all? Well, one thing is retention. What we have learned from just general market research is that turnover of any employee costs money. And massive turnover can hammer a budget just as quickly as, basically a massive liability like the tornado that hit the courthouse or all the windstorms. So one of the things we want to do is we want to insulate ourselves from that the best as possible. So yes, does it spend money? Yes. Does it make sense? Yes, because our requested increases at the net level or even the gross level would essentially pay for themselves many times over should we lose even one full-time employee to turnover. And in a small department with a small team, especially when this team has basically business and professional skill sets, those things are more valuable than ever. And I think that one of the things I would like you to look, this was thought pretty important. On page 5 of the first budget memo right here. You see the chart?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, take that chart. That's June 2024. What that shows is Bureau of Labor Statistics data, professional and business services. Bottom line is there is a labor shortage in America across the board in most, if not all, industries.
Y'all telling me anything I don't know?
Right, and now we're seeing it.
Very aware.
And now we're seeing it right here.
No, I mean, that's across the board everywhere.
Everywhere.
I travel everywhere, and every place I go, can't keep employees, you can't get employees. This is not, everybody's having the same problem.
Right.
Okay? So, I mean, a lot of times, I'm telling you the truth, though, money's not everything. Do we need to give raises? But money's not the answer to everything.
And I'm going to go into that in a second because you're absolutely right. So, but I want to see this right here. Money's not everything, but if you look at the professional business services skill set nationwide,
Mhm.
1 out of every 2 jobs right now is unfilled. In Switzerland County, where you have the dominant industries being across the river with durable goods manufacturing, which you know because you work there,
Yeah.
and then leisure and hospitality, which would be the Belterra Casino, professional and business skills or professional and business services are likely going to be even in shorter supply here, and that's just based on kind of my experience from having to hire.
Right.
So money's not everything. Retention is fueled by not only compensation where it's rational to stay, right? But it's also through essentially other retention strategies. And I talk about that there. And that's why I give you in the budget the idea about employee engagement. And so using analysis from those firms that essentially handle human resources, what we see is employee engagement are going to be engaged employees are going to be like 1.8 times less likely to leave in the first 6 months, and that there are retention strategies there for that. So if you want to look back at the retention strategies, this is the why. This is not only how you keep your employees. So let's go back to see this right here. It's called Keeping Your Talent, 7 Effective Employee Retention Strategies.
I'm gonna choose.
Yeah.
Go
Okay. Well, no, I'm saying it's there. I want you to see it so you can look it up. Yeah. So basically, I mean, just the summary, high turnover can be an expensive problem. Replacing just one employee can cost an organization 1/2 to 2 times of the employee's salary. If more employees leave, it's more turnover. That also can devastate morale, productivity, etc. So it basically gives and identifies the problem. It also looks at 7 different strategies. One of those is obviously compensation because it has to be rational to work there. And we look at year over year inflation from 2022 to 2024, and that's at 7.5%. I've cited that in my budget memo.
Pretty high.
Well, I mean, think about this.
No, I
It's
mean,
higher than
inflation's high.
it's higher than that probably.
Oh, it is.
I mean, I didn't. Does anybody really feel like there was 0% inflation in May? Because I've heard that be said, and I don't believe that.
I see what Lisa spends at grocery store all the time. So
Sure.
I know what's going on.
Sure.
It's still expensive. I think we're all feeling that. So.
Sure, and that's my point, and it's hammering everybody. So when you look at something where your dollar goes, it's worth 7.5% less in the last 2 years. I mean, it's making it harder and harder on employees, and that's why you're seeing when you go across the country at every single firm there, and frankly, the company you work for, I would imagine pays quite a bit, is able to pay quite a bit better than positions necessarily in the private sector. So, and then also they have, I mean, retention strategy too, invest in desirable benefits, those sorts of things. We talk about not every retention strategy is going to be relevant for us, but options for growth and development. That's why in my budget memo, I talk about utilizing discretionary funds that don't have a budgetary impact, pretrial diversion, infraction deferral, those sorts of things for training and engagement. The more employees are engaged, the more they're checked in, the more we do those things, the more likely they're going to stay. The more likely they're going to stay, the less likely they're going to cost us money in turnover. So looking at that, like the why, we have good people. We are able to do this work currently. We're getting better. We're obviously a young, growing office in a department that is just having to change and evolve with real-time developments in law and emergencies of investigation and emergencies in criminal cases. So looking at those things, we try to use as many strategies as we can. And so that's why I wanted to include that there to give you the why and the how. So that way, when you're looking at that, it's not just a number, it's a number with a why, what it costs, what it could cost, and all those sorts of things. So, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, appreciate this, Ryan.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, there's might be a little overkill, a lot of information there.
Well, the cool thing is it's overkill now, but then you're going to be able if you're sitting out at the house tomorrow and you go, man, I want to know, you're not going to have to go back and watch a county meeting and fast forward, and you're going to have that opportunity, and then you can look at that.
But I see. So it looks like you're just asking for a straight $5,000 increase for everybody.
So a $5,000, that would be a gross increase that does not include my pay cut. What, that was not factored
No,
in the
I'm
chart.
just looking at the numbers there, so I mean, it's, I just didn't know,
And the Title IV is funded 2/3 by the state, so that's 1,600. He's basically asking for a net $6,700.
Correct. Correct.
But that 4D money doesn't, we get reimbursed for that through one of your 88,000 accounts, not necessarily back for her salary though, right? It doesn't.
No, but no, it's salary too.
But it doesn't come back directly to the 144.
Okay, if that,
You know what I mean?
sure, but even a dollars in, dollars out kind
Right,
of
it goes into
situation.
a different account for you to spend differently.
Okay, okay.
so Ryan, I'm gonna.
That's what I'm,
Mhm.
I mean, that's,
And so Randy, to go to the straight $5,000, it's not I didn't
Because
just,
I figured it'd be a little bit different, because you're trying to, you're looking at these positions, but it's one flat rate.
well,
So that, I mean, I'm kind of questioning that.
yeah, here's why, and here's the answer. One, this, when you go to the salary study, what this does is even 2023, which is basically, we're being outpaced in 2024. Even 2023, the lowest possible of the three positions salary range, we're still asking for lower than that. So the reason that $5,000, that gets us not even really necessarily technically on the map, but right next door to the map. So once we get there,
Sorry, guys.
Do you need to take that?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you need to take that.
No,
Okay.
no, it is custom. They're going to have to wait.
Okay.
So,
So, and that's what I'm saying. So essentially to get into the even ballpark, that's what that is. So it's not a $5,000, just, that's what I think. It's basically looking at this salary study. We are probably there and honestly farther behind. So that's why that is. And I wanted to make a reasonable request that effectively nets out at $6,700 over 3 full-time employees.
another question, you keep bringing up retention a lot.
Yes.
Do you have a fear you're going to lose some people?
Every single day. And in fact, I can give you an example where one of my most senior paralegals, who's got 30 years of experience, I think has had two, this is just rough stuff off the cuff here, but
Can we mention names, or you want?
I would just like to just, I mean, you know, what I'm saying is like,
Because I don't know everybody.
right, what I'm telling you is that there's two people there. And one of them, I mean, came from the corporate world where I believe she took a pay cut. Two, there have been offers from other counties that I believe are $2,000 more or $1,000 more than what they're currently making now for a receptionist position. So what a receptionist position would do all day, sit there, answer the phone, schedule depositions. This person's not only doing that, but then turning around doing discovery and victim analysis, victim advocacy in their spare time because they don't have that same personal cross training. So that's my point. And so if you look at retention being an issue, then, and you look at retention and turnover costs, I tried to make a even gross or net request that actually would be several times under one overall employee retention. So, I mean, the reality is that there is a retention issue, and you're seeing that not only across the nation, but everywhere. Yes, everywhere, including here. So yeah, that fear is not only real, I mean, that's kind of why that chart, I believe, is so important. Not only do we have a retention issue generally, but you have 1 out of every 2 jobs is just not even filled. So imagine not being able to fill a position.
It's, there's steel mills across the river having that same issue. So they pay pretty well. They're having trouble filling positions.
And gentlemen, I'm getting close to time, so I don't want to waste your all's time, but basically that's kind of what I've got for you.
Well, I appreciate the book and everything, and,
Yep.
Yeah, I might sit on the back porch this weekend and, look at some of this stuff.
Please do.
I won't say consolation, but I'll tell you from a justification perspective, at least you've provided more insight and information than anyone else, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You all deserve that.
And, you probably ought to have that for council too.
No, I will. And that's what I was planning on doing is giving the same thing. I mean, if we need to print off 7 more binders, that's fine. I mean, I'm trying to save on the printing cost kind of deal, but there will be at least an electronic copy. I'm happy to hand them binders.
Well, I'll give mine back to you when I'm done, so.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I don't necessarily need one either. I mean, I
Okay.
understand what you're,
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I don't comment on other departments or anything, but one of the things that like really drove this is that we Association of Indiana Prosecutors, committed the salary study because statewide their retention issue is something that they are trying to solve as well. So that problem is deeper and bigger across the board and actually is going to be a prioritized matter, I think, at the state level for prosecuting positions. So that kind of drove this, which is why I have that information, and that information was something that is considered multiple sources of data. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good.
No, I'm okay. Thank you. Do you want me to go up and ask Karen, or is she scheduled at 11? I don't have my sheet. Who's
Supposed to have the
next?
sheriff's department at
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
10 and 10:30. And then,
And she's not till after lunch, so we'll.
yeah, hopefully she can be ready for that. Not sooner. Then we can put these bad boys.
I don't know where my sheet went, but I was asking.
Great presentation.
It was good.
It's very, very thorough, long explanation.
The only, I probably should have asked, the 5,000 that covers 2025, but is that indefinite?
He has a 1182 on pretrial diversion account that he could pay some of those out of. They were once upon a time, but they're not anymore. For that account.
Okay, I have to be right back. I'm gonna take this voice now real quick. Emails. Everything's a national emergency. All right, let's take these guys going.
Run.
Horn,
Is it still raining out there?
Lord. Pouring down rain.
Yeah.
You guys wanna come up here? I'd be better by the speaker and all that, if you want.
Try to corral around that.
Well, or you can. have-
Or maybe, yeah, it might be a little easier for y'all. Might be easier for us too.
Don't matter to me.
Chris, there- Yeah, this-
Something back there.
You were outnumbered now. Appreciate you coming over. What I've told everybody, obviously this process this year has been different than probably any year since you've been doing what you're doing anyway. Historically, basically you submitted a budget to council and the council decided what the increase was gonna be. Indiana code states that everybody's supposed to fill out a Form 144, submit it to the commissioners, and the commissioners need to do reviews and make a recommendation to council. My definition of review wasn't just looking at the Form 144. I felt like in order for us to do an effective review, we needed to sit down with everybody, ask them to explain the increases that they submitted or applied for, and also try to get an understanding of what everybody does, because I have no idea what everybody in this county does. So I think it's not only gives us the opportunity to understand why you asked for or submitted the increases that you requested, but to also understand what everybody does and hopefully have a better understanding of why some of the increases that were submitted or requested were so high. Still want to do the same thing, even though it's low, but nevertheless, hopefully to get an understanding. So with that said, all we've been doing is going through, we're trying to go through line item by line item. We're probably gonna go through yours, Brian, position by position, because yours is pretty large.
Right.
And it looks like, well, nah, we'll go through yours for the most part, position by position, because it is probably the largest individual department within Switzerland County government. There's definitely one of it in SCER. Then if we have time left over and we want to discuss individual positions, or you'd like to, then we'll try to do that as well. How's that
Okay,
sound?
that's fine.
So with that said, we'll just turn it over to you and
Well, and like you said, the largest increases from 24 to 25 obviously is on the deputy side. And, the reason that came about, we're always trying to stay at least in the game. It's competitive, with the deputy salaries. And this, I don't think it's a big secret, maybe it is, but, the smallest county in the state of Indiana with some of the smallest call volume is Ohio County. They recently brought their deputy pay up quite a bit, to the point where $10,000 to $12,000 more a year than what some of our people was making in the smallest county in the state. So, I don't know if anybody follows it or sees it, but it's, there's agencies everywhere. Everybody's looking for good people. So these agencies they're having to get in the game. People stay for other reasons, but everybody goes to work for a paycheck. And when we've got neighbors that you can walk across the street and get a $10,000 to $12,000 a year pay raise, that's pretty appealing. And, we're running the business to retain good people, and not only retain them, but to attract good ones. And every time we have a hiring process, and heck, even the agencies that pay big money are struggling to attract good candidates. And, we're trying to attract good candidates that you have enough faith in handing them a gun and a badge and sticking them in a police car. And, that's a pretty big responsibility and liability. So we obviously want to bring in the best that we can. So that's why you see the biggest increase on there is throughout the ranks of the deputies, is because we're just trying to get competitive. We do our homework before we do our budgets every year. We get a hold of the neighboring counties for years, and I get it. For years, it was always, hey, we can't compare ourselves to Greensburg. You can't compare yourself to Marion County. Well, I get that. But now it's even got to the point where, like I said, the smallest county in the state of Indiana is paying quite a bit more money than what we are to our deputies.
so just so I know, your deputies are hourly? more salary?
Well, they get overtime.
That's my question. And how much overtime is baked in because of their schedule? Meaning 4 hours of pay period, 8 hours of pay period, like
You never know.
CDR, for example, 16 hours of pay period automatic.
No, we don't have any automatic overtime. Because we have a short day to prevent that, even though they work a 12-hour schedule. There's no fixed overtime.
Okay.
The only time they get overtime is if a guy is off and we're short-staffed or he's working a case. But no, there's no fixed overtime.
The schedule doesn't have built-in overtime in it like SCR. 'Cause they
Right.
Work a 24-hour shift, so automatically they're getting
Yeah, that gets,
16 hours of pay period.
yeah, we don't do that. We do the 12s and have a short day.
Cause I've talked to you about possibility of changing them to that kind of a schedule.
Brian, I mean, there's some big increases there, like you're saying, but
Mhm.
it's just like, they're on pay matrix too, right? I mean, we've adjusted that pay matrix. I know when I was on council, 3 times, and 3 times in 4 years, have we not? The first year I was on, we adjusted it up.
Well, you have to,
And we
yeah,
had to, because we always had, I mean, that first year.
right.
Okay, and I think we made a pretty good adjustment to all the salaries there, because it's just the deputies on the pay matrix right now, if I'm correct.
No, we've got everybody on the matrix.
Everybody? Jailers, all of them?
Benefits on the matrix.
Yeah, I thought it was just a deputy, so, okay, thank you for that correction. And then last year, we adjusted it. Right, it got some kind of increase.
Well, see, last year, that was another thing, is this year, the money that people are making now, like 99% of the pay raises throughout the entire building over there came from us giving up a 13-year detective salary
Mhm.
and 2 part-time jailer salaries in order to help do the pay raises for this year. But yes, the pay matrices have been adjusted, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, these agencies out here to hire law enforcement officers, they are up and there's agencies with sign-on bonuses. I mean, they're bumping the salaries up. And these numbers here is just to stay competitive.
So where was the pay matrix? So how many years was the pay matrix that council approved last year or whatever? How many years was it for?
I mean, it's for a 20-year pay matrix.
Yeah,
I
we,
mean,
and
but
we,
but
and we ran that out to a 30-year pay matrix.
But we always would take a look at it every 3-4 years or something. And if I remember right, it just seemed like it was $500 raises every year.
or something?
It was
just
like
a
$500
blanket
a year.
raise, you know.
Every year was $500 a
Yeah,
year.
it's 500. That's,
Right.
and that's the way it's always been too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And now like one deputy right here, we're asking for a $14,000 raise.
that's the way it falls into the matrix.
I mean, 14, 10,000, 10,000, 11,005, 11,000, I mean,
Are these based?
you know,
Yeah, that's substantial pay raises, but like I said, I mean, you just look down there at like starting pay.
and then also now, and
So what was the purpose of the pay matrix? Because if I look at, it's a little hard for me to see how it makes sense. If I take like the lowest deputy on here,
he was
that's
gonna get a 500,
46,000.
he was gonna get a $500 pay raise this year.
4%.
Yeah, and it was like that the following year and the following year. It was really where, and two, it was based on how much experience where they come in and all.
Yeah, that's correct. That's
I mean, if you hired a 10-year veteran, he would come in under the pay matrix under like a 10-year employee.
Yes,
Okay, so,
yes, that is correct.
Right sheet.
And it was done that way in order to attract.
yes, it's right. I mean, I get it.
And another reason for the matrix is the way that, the way the pay was structured prior,
Mhm.
a 20-year officer was only making a minuscule amount
Right.
more than just a brand new guy was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a
Mhm.
fair way to pay the people.
I'm not anti-policing, okay? But I'm just trying, there's
Mhm.
numbers here, okay? So, I mean, it just, there's a balance to that.
Well,
you know?
Deputy.
Well, I'm all
one
for
is
you guys.
Yeah.
Now,
So-
and as far as the pay
Just
matrix,
FYI.
when there was an increase to the last pay matrix, it was what we thought was fair at the time. We didn't expect all our neighboring counties in that
State
same
police are
year.
doing it too.
Yeah, we didn't expect everybody to just go crazy.
Was there something on that pay matrix that I'm not understanding?
They-
Because
well,
$500 a year, if you look at the lowest salary on here, is 1%
Actually,
a year.
That's
there's a
what
couple
was
in public safety,
set up.
Jerry, that would probably.
That's guaranteed.
Yeah, it was guaranteed. That's what was set up. Cause I mean,
That-
I know again, before I was on council, I don't know, I'm assuming you guys were getting like some kind of raises and all that under a pay matrix, I'm gonna assume, I don't know, you know.
Prior to the matrices?
Well, I don't know, when did you start the matrix? I mean, it wasn't the first year, I don't think. I mean, I came on 2021.
Matrix has been in
2021,
place
we
about
adjusted pay
5
matrix
years, 4 or 5
On
years.
council, that's when I done it, you know. And then, and that year we gave 3% raises as council, my first year, if I remember. And then we gave a 6%, but you guys weren't, because you had the pay matrix, your deputies or whatever didn't
Right,
get the 3 or 6% or anything, because you already
right.
pay matrix.
Because I sat in a budget hearing and made the comment that we can't have our cake and eat it too, even
Right.
though a 6% pay raise would have been a heck of a lot more than their $500.
Exactly.
But that's the way it goes. That's the way the ball bounces. But, you know, like I said, that's where we're at is regardless of the increases or what's happened in the past.
Mhm.
We're trying to get as close as we can to be competitive.
Okay, now, going to jump back on something else too, the lit tax, we got what, 4 deputies that's being paid out of lit tax and.
Public safety,
and it's-
3 deputies and
what?
a civil processor and a dispatcher.
So it's
It's on your sheet.
The civil processor, Eddie.
Eddie.
safety tax, there it is, okay. Deputy 1, 2, 3. Okay. I mean, even these increases, I don't know if the lit tax can absorb another $30,000. I mean, if they're $10,000 increases. I think can.
I'd say good.
I mean, that's a lot of cash.
I can show you what we get for this.
I can tell you what it comes to.
What's the deputy in public
So,
safety?
yeah, okay, every one of these is that supposed to.
40,000.
There's 40,000 additional dollars in it? Yeah, let's want to eat every dime.
But one of them's
Deputy public.
kind of
It's probably new.
ridiculous.
It's a $19,000 raise right there.
Right. That's the one that's kind of ridiculous.
Well, your numbers are wrong there. You're talking about the public safety deputies?
Yes.
Your 2024 wages are mixed up between the officers. Each raise is $10,000 increase.
Straight across the board.
So this one isn't really 46,000 for 2024.
No, it should be 55,000.
Okay, my mistake. Well, I went off what was in the,
Right,
salary ordinance.
but that
Well, the
gets,
public safety ones may have been,
Okay.
you know what I mean, as far as you putting them in and what they, since they're not done for anything.
yeah.
Again, guys, no issues. You know, you guys do a dirty job out there, okay? Put your life on the line all the time. There's no qualms in giving raises. This is,
Well, I can tell you from experience, I started my career in Ohio County.
Mhm.
I came to Switzerland County because Switzerland County paid $4,000 more.
and he was only 15 miles away or whatever. too,
Right.
Right?
But since that time, I've been here 18 years now.
Mhm.
Ohio County has far surpassed pay that Switzerland County is paying their deputies right now.
I like knowing how they're doing it.
I don't think they bought an industrial park, put in a tech center, and
They were a little bit more,
I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe they saved their money a little bit more wiser many years ago and invested it wiser. I'm not sure, you know.
this
Yeah.
goes back to what the prosecutor was talking about retention too. You want to
Yeah,
have
I'm
that,
not
not just in the
disagreeing. It's
deputies,
just-
but communications in the
Yeah.
jailers as well.
I've lost over 50%. I've lost 4 of 8 people this year,
Right, I mean, well, and Luann was burning through.
which
there.
makes my job real
That's what I was gonna, and mine were going to Jefferson County as a prison.
Mhm.
I mean, we're in this boat for all the counties around us. I mean, our dispatchers make anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 less than every place around us that they could go work and make 7 to 10 grand more a year.
It's hard to find people to do these damn jobs anymore.
I think one of the things that, again, not to say we, Switzerland County didn't do things right. Certainly, if you look at how much money we have today, we're headed in the right direction, but Ohio County invested theirs and their investments pretty much cover their operating costs, where Switzerland County's not in that same, situation, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. they-
Which I think we understand, and that's why, I didn't ask for 7 to 10 grand more for the dispatchers. I just asked for a little more to get a little closer.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue your numbers if they, the purpose for me is to understand.
Right,
I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, you'll probably get every bit of it
right.
or promise anything. Your numbers are what they are. I asked for an explanation as to why they are what they are. And obviously we'll have to take that into consideration and whatever our proposal to the council is. So, for me, it's just, again, an opportunity to understand and hopefully make a couple recommendations that you may or may not agree with. And, when we get there, we'll see. I mean, I don't know that my ideas are good and everybody else's are not, or vice versa, but.
Well, I don't think it's any big secret that, and it was probably one of the greatest things as far as getting accomplished that was very, very low impact is when the public safety tax came into play. I mean, we're talking a minuscule amount to the taxpayer, which generated a lot of funds. It saved 4 positions across the street. It helps fund EMS. It pays all of the deputies' retirement.
I don't think EMS gets any of the public safety.
No, but we just can't keep but we just can't keep taxing the public, Brian, you know that.
Well, I understand that too, but if somebody come to me as a taxpayer and says, hey, we're in a situation where we got to keep good paramedics, we got to keep qualified law enforcement officers, it's going to cost you an extra $20 a year, $50 a year. It's a no-brainer.
Well, that may be true.
But I mean, you want Barney to respond to your house when you're burglarized, or you want somebody that's got half a
I
brain?
got my own pistol. I'll take care of it. Yeah, so, but I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. We're not disagreeing on.
I
it.
know,
I'm
and
just-
and everybody's in a position,
talking,
you only got so much money to go around, but I'm just using
How
it
much is a public safety tax revenue?
Upstairs and find it, but
Just an estimate,
point.
I hate to say.
I know it's like 2.5% or something, like a quarter of a percent, but
Yes.
I don't know what revenue dollars that.
And it's an
equals.
income.
It's gotta be
I hate to
generating
even
probably,
say what it would be.
it's gotta be well, you're paying for 4
Well, I
deputies.
mean, it's gotta be over 200. Hold on, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Pushing 300,000.
Paying these salaries here,
Vaguely remember.
And you got
280.
80,000 yeah.
that's 240,000.
Talking about it.
That's just for these 4 salaries.
I think it doesn't generate
So it's gotta be-
BB, it generates around 50 or 60,000 a year for BB and.
I can go upstairs and get.
No, it's fine. It's not that important. I'm just trying to get an understanding. Well, Brian said $20 and I'm trying to, I'd say it's closer to
Let's get the number.
$100 or $200.
Please, let's
What
get
you
the number.
bringing in
Yeah.
for housing.
Man, are you over the jail?
Lately, it's not a
Jail
lot.
dispatch, okay.
Jefferson County
Right, I
opened up
changed,
their
yeah.
jail.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Huge.
So you're,
They took probably 12 or 15 out of there.
so you got the communication officers then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So while we're waiting on Gail to come back with that, how about, because we've covered all the deputies.
Okay.
Can we, your GIS/IT director? I mean, you don't have a very significant increase in, compared to the rest of them, for
Right.
that position. But I'd like to make a proposal and get your thoughts on it.
Okay.
Currently we, the county, pay an outside contractor for our IT support / services. And that comes to somewhere around $30,000 to $40,000 a year. Would you be opposed to having this position be over all of Switzerland County for IT support as opposed to just the jail?
I don't know. I guess it's something to think about.
I think it's an opportunity for us to increase that position probably a little more, create a bigger responsibility. Then the only thing we'd have to decide is who does it report to? Does it report to the sheriff still doesn't report to.
Well, see,
I
technically,
know we need one 24/7 a lot of times.
which,
so
I mean, I know that particular position is not labeled here, but he's also the 911 coordinator. And I mean, it's no big secret. I mean, let's just all throw it out here. That all blew up, this whole IT director title. The only reason he got that is because the sheriff's office for 30 years has been blessed enough to have a couple guys over there, one by the name of Roy Leap that was a computer guru, and Kevin Hayes is a computer guru. Those guys have taken care of all that IT stuff for years. They just did it. They didn't get paid no more for it. And when all this came about, I just said, hey, you've done this for years and years and years. You're not making a dime more to be the tech guy, but I'll just give you that title. And the minute I changed that title, that's when everything exploded.
Yeah,
But-
he used to be the 911 coordinator.
He still is.
Always has been.
He always has been.
She's a communication.
911 coordinator and dispatch
She,
supervisor, two different positions.
So yeah, well, that would be something to think about, Jamie.
I mean, I thought we even talked about that last year in the meeting.
You know,
Well, and I think IT has become way more
Well, I figured
there
he
than it
probably
used to
is.
be. Like I know
Certainly,
for
like you said,
dispatch, I
much
would be
bigger
lost
role in
without
everything
it,
we
like,
do.
it's a lot of stuff.
5,000.
I don't know if you guys have seen our server rooms and our
that.
dispatch stuff, but
Yeah.
it's a lot, and if I didn't have him over there, we'd be paying a company big money for me to call them all the time.
Right. Once he knew the layout.
Right.
I get it.
I'm talking about what you were talking about as far as Kevin doing some of,
Yeah, that might be.
our IT.
I just think it's an opportunity for us to potentially save money as well as,
Just by the
Reinforce his position.
make this a better paid position.
Right.
I guess, this
Right.
way, because obviously the responsibility is gonna be greater, therefore it should be compensated.
Sure.
But ultimately, it ends up being a savings to the county as opposed to, just an increase.
Right.
If you will.
Right.
The public safety deputies, I mean, as long as, well, what did you find out on the public?
like in January, we got 212,000. And that stays pretty consistent. We do have some months that it drops to 168. 212 is, Mhm.
So it's a lot.
that's
And that's generated from
that's a
revenue.
lit distribution of public safety. That's what we get from the state.
That's what's taken out payroll from people's paychecks every,
Mhm.
or every 2
That
weeks.
you don't even notice.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't tell me you notice. You notice that
So it's
quarter.
200,000 a month.
That's the
Ballpark.
AOS and the public safety.
2.4 million a year.
Mhm. Then we,
I didn't feel it.
that's what, I mean, if we do at that,
Do it again, so.
I think it's
that
amazing.
rear tax
EMS,
just for the
yeah.
SDER, I mean, that's
I
just a
agree.
little bit.
It's not.
With the least amount of.
Yeah,
and that
because I
goes-
mean,
Then we distribute it.
everybody should get credit. We have raised taxes for years.
Well, I get
And I
it.
think.
So that's,
I mean,
that's
August it was 168.
Well, it's human nature. Everybody wants the best of the best.
even
Nobody wants
if
to
you
pay.
180,000 a month,
That little
Back up
raise
to
in the wet
212.
tax,
190,000 a month.
It's important. Huge. It's not.
2.3 million a year. And we have approximately
sometimes
9,000 residents, but obviously there's not 9,000 taxpaying residents in this county. If you use half of that, which probably isn't even realistic, but like 4,500, about $500 a year per taxpayer.
And it's,
Divided out by 52 weeks, right?
Well, I mean, 500 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
I
divide
mean,
it by
I'm talking
52
about
weeks, but.
per paycheck. That's what it would be.
So, and that, again, I doubt that we have 45, I doubt that half of the population is paying
working.
taxes or working and paying taxes, so it's something greater than $500 a year per taxpayer,
Well,
which obviously certainly helps the county.
Yeah. in a lot
Sure
of ways.
generates a lot of funds.
Yes.
Yeah, it was way more than I would have thought.
Me too. Yeah, that's how, yeah.
Randy's missing it, I guess.
Sorry.
You're missing it.
Something about that. You said $200,000 off.
You did that last night.
That's 2.4 million.
Here it is.
Where's the rest of the money?
Yeah, I
It
agree.
doesn't
That
go
doesn't
with
really
this right
make
there.
sense because
Where's the rest of the
our
money?
general fund
It-
revenue is only like 4 point
Well, it
something
doesn't go
million, right?
back to the general fund. When it
No,
goes-
I know,
when
but
it
our,
goes-
if you look at our general
distributes
fund
out.
revenue is 4.45 million.
Then some of this money distributes out. It goes back to the 1170 fund.
Okay, well,
I just got the,
Certainly, I'll-
where the revenue comes in. I didn't do my quite but where it's going to be distributed. Goes into 1170, it goes into the general fund. So
1, 2, 3, 4. 5 people get paid on that fund.
no, five, just those five.
Those 5. It doesn't add up to $2.5 million.
it
Well,
should
but they
go
also-
back in there. Some of it goes
It's
back
not
into
all
the general
going to the
fund.
sheriff's office.
Once we get it in,
Right.
some of it's going back into 1170, and then some of it is going into the general fund 3040.
Yeah, it's not all going to the
It's not
sheriff's
going
office.
back
right?
into,
We need to understand the distribution because that's not all going to the sheriff.
okay,
No,
so,
it's not even all going to sheriff. It's all going, it's all for, to be used for safety.
Public safety, you're right.
Yeah.
right.
So it'd have
It
to
should
be
be going back to, it should be going to
sheriff,
fund.
SCER.
Emergency
Okay.
services.
Okay,
Yeah,
even if it's 40,000, that's what we bring in. Some of it goes back to the general fund, some of it goes to the public safety. So that's still what goes in specifically to public safety would be 480,000
a year.
a year.
That's a big difference. I can agree with
But,
that.
yeah, but
That
still,
makes
we
more
get
sense.
that, we still get that income from this that goes to the general fund. You asked what we got.
So
in
that's
the
more
month,
than
so
just
that's what I
public
gave you.
safety.
Yeah. some of
That
it goes
number
to
you're
other
giving me is
things.
more than just the public safety portion.
Right.
I
Some of
I
it goes
can
to
agree
the
with
other
that.
things. I was telling you what all we got in a month, so that's.
I don't know, just for some reason, again, I'm not getting it.
Well, the 400,000 makes probably sense
480,000.
because these 5 positions
Okay.
alone are like 340,000.
I can write whatever I want.
No, these 5 positions alone are,
That tax was
200 and
now, I don't know what the
$96,000
$465 is being used for.
It goes into the public safety, and then I can show you a transaction history. It's gonna help pay for their salaries. It could
Okay, but.
Retirement.
Retirement,
retirement. Yeah, the retirement doesn't go to that.
yeah,
hear me, Randy?
it does.
The 400,000 makes probably sense because these 5 positions alone,
What are the 5 positions? What's the total for the 5
Got you.
positions?
It wasn't a whole lot. Well, I mean, it's.
are 239,000.
Okay, and then retirement's like 193.
Yep. That's right.
There's your 400,000,
There's your 480,000.
420 of 30.
And seeing if you take that number divided by what was that number you had, Jamie? If half the
That's a big
people,
difference, Yeah.
if half, the-
Um,
Well, you still have your live tax that they're getting too. that we
That's
get.
235,000 for salaries, right?
that's about $100 a year.
And then at-
and I think that's probably why there was, I mean, I don't think there was a single person that
not heard anybody.
complained when those ordinances passed and went down. I mean, because of where it's going, I think has a lot to do with it. It's because it's for public safety. Who doesn't
Right.
want public safety?
All right, communications director, you had put in for a 10%.
There are 3 positions that all fall in that same category to get over that threshold of the exempt, non-exempt overtime rule that's going into
I
effect.
know that goes up again in January.
Well, we made these numbers fit January.
Yeah, you're right, because it goes to like
It goes to
55 or
50.
56?
No, it goes to 58 something.
58, okay. It was 50-some thousand.
And then like her position actually comes out of statewide 911 fund.
Oh,
That- Which position, is that,
so mine, and then I have another salary that's not on this list for a dispatcher that they both come from the state 911 fund.
So that doesn't,
so I'm gonna have to apologize, I don't know
well, you wouldn't have
what
to,
your
I,
position is.
You would.
you
I'm
wouldn't
the
have,
communications director.
Okay, okay.
And
Yeah.
my salary comes out of the state 911 funds. And then I also have a dispatcher that comes out of state 911 funds. It's not on here. I'm on here, but he's not on here.
I wonder why it's not on there.
I don't know. And this spreadsheet that we got is what
Yeah, that's Jamie's spreadsheet.
yeah.
Well, then you didn't have it on your 144 either, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Well, this, yeah, I did. Yeah, my salary and
Did
the,
I just missed it. Hold on.
yeah, should be one dispatcher on there. Those come out of state 911
Because
funds.
I want to make sure I did it.
And then I have one that comes out of public safety and the rest.
He's got slightly wet coming in here this morning.
Yes, it's on there.
You said it's what?
The dispatcher one is what it's,
Oh, I've got it on here. Under public safety.
No, I have one that comes out of public safety
and another one that comes.
and then another one that comes out of state 911 fund. And then the other 6 come out of
general.
the general.
Yeah, so you didn't, but it's not on what you all submitted here, that's why.
It's
It's not.
on what
I don't see it on the public safety one.
So it's not gonna be on. There's one on public
I turned
safety.
in 3 separate.
Yeah, that's,
I turned in one for my public safety dispatcher,
So
one.
you're going to turn in this one. That's
I can't think
uh,
of it.
communications director and dispatcher one.
That's the ones that come out of state 911 fund.
So I have that position on.
mhm.
Yeah, but not,
I don't have
This
the other
one.
one.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah, this public safety one, I don't have anything on it.
I turned in a separate public safety one.
so regardless, I need to add a dispatcher.
Yes.
Then hers could, I mean, the directors could actually come off here. couldn't they?
Well, I don't know what you want on there and what you don't. Like mine and the one dispatcher don't come out of general fund. They come from state 911 fund.
So this communications director does not come out of
General.
general.
No, it comes from state 911 fund.
And then this other dispatcher you're telling me about doesn't come out of it either.
No.
Right.
So I don't know if you even want them on
So
your
we
list.
probably shouldn't even have them on here. They have to go into the
Yeah.
They have to
salary
go-
ordinance.
So,
Yeah,
But we don't need them on here, so I'm gonna take them off of here, that way it doesn't.
yeah.
Deliver
That's what
numbers.
I didn't know if you wanted them on there or didn't want them on there and I didn't
So-
know. how to-
Oh, you're fine, I don't
the
think.
dispatcher
anybody
7, is that what's the 11
detailed,
I have it on here, but I don't have it on that sheet. I don't know why he does it.
And
This one right here.
guidance. I think this is what I'm looking for.
Hey, Brian.
Yes, sir.
You do currently have them, what I'm seeing, 12 deputies right now on payroll. Is that correct? That's the chief and yourself?
Yes.
Have you lost any deputies this year?
Lost 2.
Yes, it should be
Yeah, boss.
dispatcher 7 on the.
Lost 2 really good ones.
I assume you got them replaced already?
Oh, yeah, no.
We have
we're trying
one to
build
replace.
now.
Be on the public safety.
Yeah, it's on the public safety.
Oh, you do have
Well,
that.
It is slam picking.
I was looking at.
Everybody's having the same problem trying, like I said.
Well, that's always kind of been my,
It's
my,
tough.
it's tough to find somebody who wants to flip a cheeseburger, much less find somebody that wants to come do what we do.
It's very tough.
12 hours, night shift, 24.
It is tough.
Oh, my flipping, as long as it's on my bun.
I'm gonna come back out there on weekends.
I have to.
No, most of, I mean, I have 4 new people, so they were My salary stayed pretty low this year.
Those are 37, 38,000
Plus,
people.
Yeah, so some of those were wrong actually on this spreadsheet he did, because mid-year I had 4 people leave, so.
And that's
I have
hard.
4 that are
Yeah,
currently making
that's-
37,000 right now. That I asked.
so that's on the communications or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 that were making 37,000 that this year I asked them to go up to 41.5.
So I can change this. Doesn't matter which, it probably does matter which floor.
So it's one
One is making 37.
oh, no, sorry, I'm wrong. It's, the last 2 are making 37,000.
5 and 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
You're
other
asking
two,
for
the other 2 were,
41.5.
and asking for 41.5, yeah. The other 2 were the public safety one and the state 911 one, so they're not all, there's just 2.
These two.
5 and 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That one.
what they were previously making was only wrong because they didn't have her supervisor pay and then her, but their raises were right.
So the next one, I guess it's, a little bit higher is the sergeant. Oh, what is the sergeant? Oh, I know.
Should be Luann.
She's under me. She takes over when I'm not there. And she does do a lot more than the rest of them.
And you're the jail commander, right?
Yes.
So is this a full-time position?
It's full time.
Full-time position.
And then I've got the same as Emily had. I have 3 that left in higher paying positions that dropped back to 37.5.
Can you tell me which 3 of those are?
The one would be the 3rd jailer down.
So one that's at 39.5.
Yep,
You say it's 37.5?
it's 37.5.
Are you still asking for that to go to 42?
Uh,
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's like mine, the raise part is right, it was just.
yes.
It
Salary
it
was
shows
wrong.
current salary, and it's because we changed mid-year.
So the 3rd one down and then,
The 6th one down.
which is currently 38
And
on the spreadsheet anyway.
yes, and that one is 37.5.
So 3rd one, the 6th one,
And the 7th one. And then on the part-time jailers, you don't have anything for 2025.
yeah, I don't know.
I remember you'd asked me about that. Didn't you call me a couple weeks ago?
I think that you know.
I think they were on here maybe. I found them on the, salary ordinance, but I don't know if they were on here for what reason.
Yeah, on the part-time jailers, you had put 0.
Oh, wait a minute, they are down here. I didn't put anything because I don't know how many hours you use for part-time.
24
It
weeks.
varies. Of course, well, obviously part-timers, we gotta keep them under that threshold so they don't get benefits, but it varies. 24 hours, could be 30 hours. That's not one of those positions where we have to have
So
extra.
it has to be less than 30 in order to be considered part-time. Average less than 30.
Yeah.
I'll just put them at 29.
Yeah, that's what I got actually.
Yeah, that would be safe.
I think I based that on 24 hours a week.
So if you base,
24.
so if you base it on 29, then it's more than covered.
Yeah.
And you got, and they're all 19.50 per hour.
I've gotten to there, I don't know, like,
You do have,
yeah, I thought it was these three.
oh, no.
24.
I need to make sure that's-
Yes.
Was there an
Yeah,
increase
75.
going on?
I think you.
She's got,
Get rid of a couple.
I'm
sure she did, but I'm looking, she's got the
Did you go to
budget
the-
worksheet that she,
No.
it should be on.
And then, on this.
Hey, Brian, another question, if I may,
Yes.
since you're opening up, how's our capacity been running with that?
Well, ours went down, obviously, because we was housing probably 12 to 15 of Jefferson counties, but, we're still, she does, we're still doing DOC bill.
Okay.
And the reason, ever since COVID, getting people that are sentenced, sent to DOC turned in, as you can imagine, a mess.
Yeah, me and the one.
Which, in a way, it's kind of benefits us, because if somebody's sentenced today,
That's what I'm making-
they don't get shipped to DOC within a couple of weeks like they used to. But from the day they get sentenced till the day they leave our house to go to DOC, we bill DOC. So every nickel that we can bill, we bill, obviously to help offset some of the cost of the operation.
We're not holding any Ohio counties anymore
Now, haven't for years,
since Nathan
yes,
gave it back.
yeah,
If I'm correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally the special circumstances arises where they
yeah.
can't house where they normally do.
Even with Jefferson County having a brand new jail, there's, every once in a while, there's circumstances where they need to bring somebody up to us, but anytime we've got a paying customer rent a bed, we bill them. So,
I don't know the
No, I was.
report you sent out or somebody sent out a little while back. where
probably
like-
state jail inspector.
It was like state inspect, I don't know what inspection is the right word.
It probably was. It
It's
was
a
Where you're
state jail.
averaging like
50%.
50%.
Yes, that's correct. Which that was probably,
I think it was maybe a little more than 50. I think it was 36 beds average for the year or something like that.
it could be, which that was another one of those deals, you know, when we built that jail, we wanted to build it for a long term. We didn't want to be like some of these other jails out here that they spent millions of dollars and 6 years later, now they're spending millions more. I mean, we got years of expansion over there before anybody, none of us will have to worry about building a new jail.
No, I won't.
So the only other question
They
is,
just came back and hit us and said we didn't have enough jailers. That's why we put a part-timers.
The deputy
Yeah.
matron was left empty too.
yes, because you didn't have anything for
I
that.
have it on my schedule.
Oh, you did?
Well, what did?
Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, it could have been,
Did you have an increase for your part-time jailers?
Yes.
Because I don't have it on my sheet.
I'm
the part-time jailers went
up
to
to 1950.
I've got the matron.
an hour.
I
That-
show salaries.
Show me which one has the deputy matron.
336.
I'm-
Linda Collins.
24,336.
The deputy matron is,
Yeah, it was on the salaried ordinance, but it wasn't on the 144 that they submitted.
yeah, I have them here. It's very good. That's where I got my numbers from.
Yeah, part-time cook. Turned to $13.90 an hour. And the way I figured her annual salary was I took,
Oh, it's on here as a part-time cook.
yeah,
That's
Yeah,
why I
that's
didn't
why.
pick up on it.
Yeah, that's why.
I'm sorry, what is it?
I bumped hers up to,
You're talking about Linda?
yeah.
$20,500 a year.
It's really the part-time code.
Okay.
What did you say? Sorry.
Did they ask, what are we doing? with
I
it?
think Vicky's vacation time, like 6 times, and I had 2 days to cover her.
That position,
It's 20,500.
Yeah.
And then the only other one I didn't have anything in is a part-time nurse.
well,
Okay.
yeah.
We had nobody will cover us medically if our nurse is paid by the county. They want the nurse under their umbrella. So we have
For your
to eliminate the nurse in order to keep a medical company.
So that's in your line item budget somewhere,
Yes.
because it's a contract.
That is correct. Yeah. Which, I mean, I could see these companies, I could see if they're gonna, somebody's gonna work under them, they want them to be on their payroll and
Their liability.
they're like, yes, right.
coverage,
Yes,
is probably the bigger.
Which is a good thing. 'cause
Good thing
then
for
that
us.
takes the liability off of us.
Sure does.
yes.
They supply medicine too.
They supply, all the medical stuff. And they even, and like on the line items, they even eliminated prisoner medical. Because that includes a pool where they pay the bills and stuff. We don't even have to mess with that anymore. It's good.
Victim jobs, same thing at the end of the year.
It was pretty close. It was a little more, but it was close.
Randy, Jerry. You guys have anything else for us? Well, we appreciate it.
I got one stupid question. This is off topic too. Are you in negotiations with the town of Beebe trying to take over? I mean,
Well,
and I don't know, can we broach this subject now? I mean, this is a public meeting, right?
Yeah, I mean, if
I'm
fine with it.
I mean, I saw it in the paper and didn't know anything about it. So I mean, I was just kind of.
well, that's what, that was been our goal for the last 2 or 3
Yeah, I
years.
mean, I remember we talked about 3 years ago, you know,
Yeah.
but I mean,
You know, which obviously that would be a great thing. I mean, there's lots of towns and counties across the state of Indiana that have done that years ago. Obviously, Rising Sun and Ohio County did it. You know, I've said all along, it sure would be nice if we could do that, if it helps save the town of Evie a little bit of money, but that money they would contract with us would go a long ways on pay raises. You know, I mean, everybody's always scratching their head trying to figure out how we can come up with some funding to make things better. And Chris and I went over there and we did meet with them probably, a month ago, I think. And I think it was a lot more open-minded to the point where, yes, let's start looking into this. Let's go back and forth like all contracts do. Like I said, get you guys on board, get county council on board. We want everybody to see where this is going and hopefully, you know, basically work out a number that's good for them and good for us. So, you know, I'm pretty happy that at least it's going that direction.
Officers too.
They have two. Yeah, they have two. I mean, like I said, we've been filling in all the coverages and
right.
the shifts, because obviously they can't cover 24/7 with two. And, you know,
Kind of tough.
you know, my feeling is if it saves them a little bit of money versus them having a 6-man police department, but it slings us a little bit of money for having to pick up the slack. I just feel like that's a little more fair all the way around the table. So, yes, so we're just getting our foot in the water on that, and hopefully
So,
that
I mean, it's
does.
just discussion. That's all it is right now.
It is, but I think it's going to happen as soon as we can, you know, I've said, work out the details, try to come up with a fair number. I would
School,
think
school
that-
resource officers have made the move from VV Police. They're under the umbrella of the sheriff's office now,
Yeah.
but that doesn't affect our funding.
Resource officer, 2 down there?
Two.
3.
They have 2 and they have 2 full-time, but they have a
And one
part-time
part-time.
because one is off on FMLA right
And,
now.
and they're
Paid by the school.
paid by the school, but under your guidance. or-
They,
Right.
SROs have to be underneath law enforcement agency in order to have police powers. And the school approached us and asked us if we would take that over.
Did I hear correctly? Did BV donate 2 vehicles for them?
Yes, they did. It's kind of a group effort by all involved.
So right now, you're absorbing the impact of covering the calls for the, I'll say 24/7, but
Everything outside. of that.
everything outside them 2 officers.
Yes.
And I mean, that's been an ongoing thing, I believe, for probably about 2 or 3 years.
Oh, yeah,
All in all.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
so I remember we talked about probably about 3 years ago, 2 years
Yeah.
ago.
Well, Chris, and Matt, he went with us.
Yeah.
I think Andy, you know, we went to that first meeting just to try to break the ice, and they didn't, at the time, they didn't want anything to do with it. And, I think obviously a lot of waters went under the bridge since.
A lot of changes
A
too.
lot of changes, a lot of stuff. And I mean, to me, it's a no brainer. If I was on the town board and I could say, hey, let's just wash our hands of this and let's just contract with the county and
2 deputies.
save money in the process.
Just spitballing, 2 deputies on town board and would, or town police would come and work under you then?
No.
Or they would?
No, they would stay their town marshals. The BB still has their 2 town marshals.
Okay,
Yeah,
but, otherwise, you'd be contracted out to cover the rest of the time.
that's right. Exactly. So hopefully, it materializes.
You foresee us being able to cover that with the deputies you have now?
Yes. That's why I would like to use the money that we bring in for the contract to go towards the salaries.
That'd help if we knew it now.
Oh, I know. I wish we did.
I mean,
I wish we did.
Brian, yeah,
they're making their
I
money.
understand, okay,
They
this is,
should come off,
this is gonna be, it's gonna
come
be
off with some
tough, I think, all the way around.
What would happen to their current 2 deputies?
They stay,
They stay for, it'd still be BB town marshals.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they'd probably end up working like an 8-5 shift or something like that, and you'd probably cover the rest, and they, or something like that, or
You'd
they
rather
probably
do
work some
that.
kind of 12-hour
We
shift.
need to get,
Between the 2 of them.
yeah, we need to get something nailed down on their scheduling, because obviously it makes us, at least we know whether we're coming or going or,
Right.
you know, so. Because we still, obviously, our number 1 priority is the county, so, but we help out where we can, so.
We've all been to the other end of the county and had call and beat.
Yep, for sure.
So, and you feeling better now? I heard something about
Yeah, and to get some plumbing worked on, so. Not gonna
Eating
run,
that jail food.
not gonna run any marathons anytime soon, but doing better, yes, thanks for asking.
Appreciate it.
Okey dokey.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Pushing the rain stop.
I hope so.
See y'all.
That's the,
Take a 10-minute break. We'll have the clerk in and.
Is she scheduled at 11 or is she scheduled?
it. It says 11:30, but
11:30.
We'll see what.
You want me to ask her to come down at 11?
Yeah, yes.
please.
Because then we need to set, then we need to go through all this. So we've got a couple others.
Yeah, yeah.
Go
We
over.
gotta bounce through this, and it's,
We'll stop that for now.